Have you ever felt, well, stuck? You want to make some huge change in your life. Get healthier, learn a skill, maybe build a business, but that goal just feels impossibly big. What if I told you the secret to those massive results wasn't some huge life-altering effort? What if it was something much, much smaller? The answer, it turns out, starts in a place you would never, ever expect. So, this whole story starts with those words from James Clear, the author of the mega bestseller Atomic Habits. Before he was this habits guru, he was just a high school kid whose entire life was shattered in a single split second. A total freak accident. And this awful moment of impact, well, that's the unlikely start of a really profound discovery. I mean, the damage was just catastrophic. We're talking multiple skull fractures, shattered eye sockets. His brain swelled so badly he had to be put into a medically induced coma. When he finally woke up, he had double vision, post-traumatic seizures. He had to spend months in physical therapy just practicing how to walk in a straight line again. So how do you even come back from that? How do you rebuild your life when you've hit absolute rock bottom? Well, he didn't have some big, dramatic training montage like in a movie. His recovery wasn't a single heroic choice. Instead, when he finally got to college, he started small, like really small. He focused on just getting good sleep. He made sure to keep his dorm room tidy. He started lifting weights just a couple times a week. These were tiny, tiny habits, but they gave him a sense of control. And that little bit of confidence started to ripple out into every single area of his life. And this whole experience led him to a really powerful discovery: the almost magical power of getting just 1% better every single day. Now, I know, it doesn't sound like much, right? But the real-world results of this way of thinking are, well, they're absolutely stunning. Take the British cycling team. For 100 years, they were mediocre at best. Then they hired a new performance director who brought in this philosophy called the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea was to just improve everything by 1%. And they looked everywhere. Not just the obvious stuff like bike seats and tires. No, they got obsessive. They taught riders how to wash their hands to avoid getting sick. They found the perfect pillow for each athlete. They even painted the inside of the team truck white, just so they could spot tiny bits of dust that might hurt the bike's performance. And the results? They became the most dominant force in the history of cycling. So, if all those tiny 1% changes add up to Olympic gold, what does the math actually look like over time? Well, it leads to this number, 37.78. It looks totally random, right? It's not a race time, it's not a dollar amount, but it might just be the most important number you need to understand when it comes to personal growth. So here's what that number means. If you get just 1% better at something every single day for a year, you won't be 365% better. You'll be nearly 38 times better. It's because habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. But, and this is crucial, it works both ways. If you get 1% worse each day, you decline to almost zero. It shows that our small choices don't just add up, they compound. Now this leads to a really interesting idea that pretty much flips conventional wisdom on its head. We're all taught to set these big, ambitious goals. But what if focusing on the goal is actually what's holding us back? Let's just break this down for a second. A goal is the result you want to get. A system is the process that leads you to that result. So if you're a coach, your goal is to win the championship. Your system is how you practice, how you recruit, how you manage your staff. Here's the thing. Winners and losers often have the exact same goals. It's their systems that make all the difference. And this gets to the absolute heart of the matter. Real, lasting change isn't about what you want to achieve, it's about who you want to become. The real goal is to actually change your identity. See, once you start to see yourself as a healthy person or a writer, you're not just chasing a goal anymore, you're just acting in line with who you already are. And you can see this play out in the real world. A tiny change in how you talk reveals a huge change in your mindset. So someone offers a person a cigarette, and they might say, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." But listen to the difference when they say, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." You hear that? The first person still sees themselves as a smoker. The second person, they fundamentally changed how they see themselves, and their behavior just naturally follows. It's so powerful. Okay, so we get the why, the power of that 1% and focusing on who you want to become. But what about the how? How do we actually do this stuff? Well, luckily, there's a simple, super practical framework for building these habits. Turns out, every single habit we have, the good ones, the bad ones, all of them, follows this little 4-step loop. First, there's a cue that triggers your brain. That leads to a craving. The craving motivates a response, that's the habit itself, which finally delivers a reward. And that reward satisfies the craving and tells your brain, hey, let's do that again next time. So if you want to take control of that loop, you just need to pull 4 simple levers. These are the 4 laws of behavior change. If you want to build a good habit, you make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the action easy, and the reward satisfying. And if you want to break a bad habit, you just do the opposite. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. Simple as that. Okay, this is my favorite part because it's the most actionable piece of advice you can use the second this explainer is over. It's all about that 3rd law. Make it easy, but taking it to a level that makes it basically impossible to fail. It all comes down to something called the 2-minute rule. The core idea is just dead simple. Any new habit you start, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. It's not about the big outcome, it's just about mastering the art of showing up. The whole point is to create a tiny gateway habit that naturally pulls you toward the bigger behavior you want. So read a book every night becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Study for class becomes open my notes. And run 3 miles just becomes tie my running shoes. I mean, anyone can do these things, right? And once you've started, once the shoes are on, it's so much easier to just head out the door. You're not trying to build the whole habit at once. You're just making the starting line as easy as possible to cross. So the big takeaway is this: you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And the best systems start incredibly, almost ridiculously small. So I'll just leave you with this one question. What's a gateway habit you can do right now, in the next 2 minutes, that could start compounding into something truly remarkable a year from now?